Hello and welcome to The Wardrobe with me, Don Bryan. This is the first in what I hope to be a series of video podcasts looking at the world money system and our culture, how those two things link together, and whether it is time now to consider whether or not we need to change both. In the last few years, I've become increasingly interested in how the world works, what are the biggest components that shape our world, and how has it evolved this way. More recently, I've been working on a documentary about the money system in particular, and whether or not it's fit for purpose to carry us into the future as connected human communities. And I think this crisis, as of now, March 2020, the COVID pandemic, is a poignant time to ask these questions. So that's what I hope to do, and in the process I hope to learn more of what other people think on these matters, to better inform me about where we might go and how we might get there. So thank you. So I'd like to discuss a few issues that I think are interesting and poignant that have come about as a result of this COVID-19 pandemic, notably how the UK government has responded with its announcement of an aid package, an economic aid package, and a terminology and phrasing of within that announcement, and I think how that speaks of our cultural understanding of the economy and our value system regards our culture. Also, the cultural behaviours we've now been asked to adopt and how that speaks of our sense of, or speaks to our sense of community and social responsibility and overall collectivism. So we have been, on those last couple of points there, we have been forced to stop consuming in the same way, and to stop spending our free time or leisure time in the same way, or compelled to in some cases, as a result of the measures in terms of shutting down various sectors of commerce. We've been forced to stop spending our free or leisure time in the same way. We've also been asked to engage in social responsibility regards our social interactions, and in particular how we can no longer, or we've been asked to no longer see our friends or family unless it's some kind of urgent issue or issue of care. And we've also been asked to manage the buying of our provisions in a socially responsible way without impacting negatively other people within our society. But arguably most crucially, we have been asked to stop working, and therefore for many of us, we have the opportunity to make a living has ceased, with the exception of key workers. So I think on that last point first, what was interesting for me in the Chancellor's announcement was the emphasis placed on the necessity to save business and businesses. And that seemed to be the general cut and thrust of that initial announcement of the £300 billion plus financial package, was let's try and keep businesses going and commerce going, rather than let's support people. Let's support all the citizens of this nation as individuals and members of family groups. So why was it that he placed the emphasis on keeping business going? What is a business? So a business, as I understand it, is a conceptual framework, or just it's a construct. Businesses are entities which we sit under as workers within a economic area. We use businesses to provide services and goods and conduct general commerce and trade through this conceptual framework of businesses. But essentially they are still constructs, and it's people that provide the activity of businesses. So my position would be, if you provide support for individuals, for people, you are therefore going to support businesses, or support the survival of businesses once businesses can freely operate again without these restrictions, the current restrictions. So what could be done other than what has been done to support people, and therefore the chances of us bouncing back from this economically and commercially and generally, other than just supporting businesses? So what could be done other than the packages that have been offered already, which are essentially there to bolster business? So an alternative that has been put forward by many academics, many progressive political people and parties, and also economists, is UBI, which is Universal Basic Income, which is essentially a less conditional benefit that is given to those who subscribe to it without means testing, or if means testing is applied, it's a means testing that will include, the largest percentage of income. So what would that do? That would instantly provide cash to the hands of the public, which would therefore find its way into the economy and bolster the liquidity of the economy and prevent it from potentially ceasing due to a lack of liquidity or a lack of what might be called velocity in terms of liquidity. Other benefits obviously include reducing the impact on the already overstretched social support networks, such as the pre-existing benefit system in this country and other countries. It should reduce the impact on the healthcare systems, and it should also lessen any impact due to stress on the mental well-being of the general populace, which would therefore have an impact on those two systems I just mentioned, support systems that most countries have. Other benefits include, and these results have come from trials that have already taken place in countries that trials of UBI, that you have increased engagement in education and higher education. You have lessened impact on the healthcare system, but you also have increased productivity and arguably increased enterprise. So why are we not being offered that package, that solution by our government? That's my question to you that I'm putting out here on this video podcast. What do you think would be the negative results of introducing systems such as UBI? I welcome any discussion and feedback on that. So putting UBI aside and the economic packages that have been offered currently by the UK government, the other issues I mentioned, cultural behavioural issues, I think also are linked with our view of our cultural view of the economy, but also have been shaped by economic or cultural epochs of the past, such as Thatcherism and Reaganism, and how those two political identities and ethoses have shaped our understanding and potentially changed our engagement in society and community, and maybe changed our sense of obligation to those things. So I think, this particular, the crisis we find ourselves in has not, in many cases, highlighted in a positive way what values underpin our society. I don't think we're seeing a lot of a positive reinforcement of the idea of society and collective responsibility and a togetherness. I think it's unfortunately highlighted how we have become more polarised as individuals, and also as just groups of individuals living together in various, forms, and it's highlighted and shown how we maybe have an approach of every man for themselves. So again, I would like to hear your responses to that, your thoughts on that. If you would like to add to this commentary, I would be very appreciative. So that's all for the first video podcast of The Wardrobe with me, Don Bryan.